This is the Pentagon in the United States. Some could say that in this building there are the best kept secrets in the whole world. Today, we will be revealing something referring to the Pentagon in the United States, but something even bigger, much bigger. And it is also about a Pentagon, but not the building that we've just seen right now. It's about this Pentagon over here. This is the Pentagon in Saudi Arabia. Curious, right? How it has the same form as the Pentagon in the United States, the building. The dimensions are quite big, but it is a perfectly geometrical pentagon in a mountain in Saudi Arabia. This is it right here. You can see that around this pentagon, which is the same color as the land surrounding it, but around it, it is all black because it's burnt. As you can see, on one side of the pentagon, there has been a falling of all those rocks that have covered one side of it. But if those rocks were not to be there, it would be completely perfect. And also, it has in the center these small circles that are not burnt, because literally all the area around this pentagon is completely burnt. Now, we are dealing here with the matter of the UFO phenomenon. So was this a UFO? It is quite impressive to notice the difference between the mountain around the Pentagon and the one that is below the mountain. Actually, if you break one of those rocks that are there, they are completely carbonized. They are black on the outside, but when you split them in half, they have another color on the inside because they are burnt. Since today is about the UFO phenomenon, then let's start to introduce the matter, and we'll deal about this one later on. But I can assure you that it is something quite amazing. But you'll have to wait till the end of the conference to find out what it is. First, let's start with what we could say as, well, usual sightings of UFOs that people may have recorded on video, and they are on the internet. I've only put a few examples because there are quite many of them, and just so that we get an idea of what these sightings are and how many UFOs are being seen today and how common they truly are.
Recorded over Hungary, footage of what looks to be a cylindrical shaped object flying over the countryside.
This one shot on April of 2023, showing a strange object hovering over a forest in Colombia. This video shows a triangular-shaped object with 4 lights, 3 on each side and 1 red in the dead center.
I'm telling you that they're not moving. They're staying stationary. They're hovering.
They kind of look wide too.
Look at the lights changing.
It is moving.
No, it's not.
It looks like it.
Yeah, but they're not moving. That's an airplane. Hang on.
Which one? The one closest to the Capitol building?
Hang on, let me zoom out a little bit. Yeah, that's an airplane.
With the one in the middle, that one.
That's an airplane. You can see it moving.
Yeah.
The one to the right, or over here,
The one behind the Capitol building is not an airplane.
or over here. That's an airplane. Okay.
Yeah, over there is, but look at
Yeah,
that one.
and I'm saying, like, when you look to the left of the Capitol,
That one's
those are not moving.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. They're here.
Can we go back in the car?
They're here, Ella.
Okay. What the heck?
So, as you've seen, all kinds of shapes of different flying objects that are unknown to the public. Some people say that they are drones. Some people say that they are aliens in their spaceships or technology coming from other places. And it's curious to see how they have even been hovering on top of the Capitol in Washington. And apparently it's becoming something normal, actually, in the United States to see things flying through the skies. Now let's take a look at the UFOs throughout different cultures and in the past history of humanity, basically. On UFOs in art, the most controversial works with flying ships in history. From rock art to ancient books, tapestries and paintings from all over the world, representations of flying objects in culture date back centuries before the famous Roswell case. In rock art to ancient books, tapestries and paintings, as it said. So as you can see, there are different here pieces of art, you could say today they are art, or where people in ancient cultures did their own paintings to be able to record experiences with these kind of flying objects. In recent weeks, there have been many sightings of unidentified flying objects, UFOs, which does not mean that they are spacecrafts commanded by intelligent beings from other planets. This happened in northern Argentina with a series of aligned lights that turned out to be SpaceX satellites. Well, it's curious because I've seen this here where I live also many times. In Mexico, where a strange object streaks across the sky at the same time that explosions occur in the Popocatépetl volcano, even the US Department of Defense authenticated 3 non-recent videos of ships captured by its cameras. And going even further, the Japanese government confirmed that it is preparing protocols for a possible extraterrestrial attack. So as you can see, the different governments in different countries are recognizing these kind of UFOs. They don't say, obviously, that they are definitely aliens, but some of them even say, as Japan, that they are preparing for an alien attack. And about these recent videos that have come out from the Pentagon, we'll see them in a bit. It continues saying, "Of course, these are not the first cases, nor will they be the last. There is an extensive bibliography, photography and film material on bodies moving through airspace, many with a scientific explanation, others still awaiting answers. But what about art?" The following is a review of rock art, publications, paintings, tapestries and other objects, artifacts that generated controversy and aroused speculation on the part of subscribers to the ancient astronaut theory, which says, among other things, that we humans are visited by beings from other planets long before the famous Roswell case in 1947, which was in modern culture the great trigger of this type of experiences. Some people say and believe that we have been visited from aliens, from extraterrestrials, many, many years ago, even millenniums ago, and that there are registers of these encounters with these other beings, as we will see now. Here are some paintings of the Wandjina in Australia. As you can see, these these weird kind of creatures of beings, but with 2 legs, 2 arms, and like in a human figure. Located in different parts of the oceanic country, these anthropomorphic drawings represent the spirits of rains and clouds and were the creators of life on Earth. In addition, they had special powers such as causing floods and intense lightning. This is very curious for us to keep it in mind. Extraterrestrials, spirits also, that have the power to cause floods and to cause also intense lightning. So this is natural disasters related to aliens and UFO phenomenon. Just keep it in mind because it will come up later. Also, let us remember that certain cultures in different countries, like for example in Australia, while they did have the, let's say, it was common for them to use certain plants to open their pineal gland to certain experiences. So who knows if these kind of certain beings were really true or were they hallucinations because of the cause of these plants. So these are the kind of things that maybe might come up further on. This can mean that humans in ancient times saw or imagined, as I said, beings coming from other planets. We need a detailed investigation. Our department has no experts in this field, said local archaeologist J.R. Bagat when he represented the findings to the public in 2014. So, as I said, are they real or are they not? Are they imagination or are they really true beings that appear to these people? Here are some more drawings in the caves of Chhattisgarh in the Indian, well, this is in India, this is from the Indian Times, and as you can see here, certain like human form beings, and in the middle, a certain kind of spaceship shape. Also in India, another finding generated controversy and is still awaiting official answers. in the Narmada Valley, where the oldest human skull in that country was found, a group of researchers discovered in a shelter called Rajatol a painting that seems to represent a strange visitor, along with a ship and even a wormhole, together with a large number of small stone tools from the Mesolithic period scattered on the floor. So as we can see here in this image, there is even like this kind of wormhole shape, which is like this dimensional portal, like we see in movies, for example, where other beings can come from other dimensions or even maybe far away, opening this dimensional portal to go through it and appear to our world. So this is in a painting in a rock, basically, thousands of years ago. Here are some more images. A petroglyph from Utah, below anthropomorphic beings found in La Rioja, Argentina, and next to them the flying saucer of the fort of Samaipata. So, once again, other parts of the world, different kind of beings that have been recorded and painted on rocks, but even a flying saucer, I mean, the one that we can see below on the right is precisely something that we could imagine or draw when we picture a flying saucer, a UFO. One of the cases that aroused more interest from ufologists in this part of the world took place in Puebla, Mexico. There, a group of treasure hunters found in 2017 a group of carved jade stones that do not leave much room for double interpretations. Mayas are seen exchanging offerings of beings with large and elongated heads. And as we can see here, well, literally, we could see this as an alien, with big-headed, ET kind of form, exchanging some kind of objects with this indigenous Mayan that is there. Curious the thing that the alien, or so-called alien, has in its hand, with this kind of mandala kind of shape. And above of it all, there is this flying saucer, this spaceship on top of them, these two beings there. Also in the Archbasilica of St. John Lateran, inside the Vatican State, there is a reliquary box that has aroused various speculations over the years, especially because of one of the drawings inside. And we can see here on the top left, this kind of shape that also looks like a UFO. Here is another one, another painting where we can see this kind of sphere form. Some people have even recorded sphere shapes of flying objects. And here in this painting, you can see like this, this UFO, this flying saucer, with kind of fire around it, as if it were flying at high speed. Back to the orb as an object, it must be said that it was a fairly common representation in many sacred works of the time and to come. One of the most controversial is the Madonna of San Giovannino, painted during the Renaissance. The artist, moreover, did not want the figure to go unnoticed, and for that reason he also painted a person, possibly a shepherd, who observes the artifact with great attention along with his pet. And here we see the Madonna, which is the Virgin Mary, and behind her in the skies there's a flying object, a UFO, flying saucer. And you can see here that the painter obviously wanted to remark this because there is someone there, pointing at the skies, literally. So what has the Virgin Mary also have to do with UFOs and aliens and extraterrestrials? Here is another painting where we can see on the right an amplified of what is the painting on the left, where there is like a circle group of angels, and coming from this kind of cloud, there is a ray of light going down, beaming into a woman's head, directly to what we could say is her pineal gland. So this is like representing information coming from the heavens, or coming from certain beings. In this case, angels is what they say. So here we've seen aliens, we've seen also this kind of angels, and also the Virgin Mary in Christianity. So not only, for example, in different cultures like in Australia, but also in Catholic paintings we can see this also. And here's another one where directly from the flying saucer there is kind of rays of light going down onto these people. Once again, we can see flying saucers in the sky in these Catholic paintings. And here also it is repeated, this kind of hat shape in the sky. Many say it's a UFO. It looks like a UFO, but it's an artist's vision. They are like Leonardo da Vinci's paintings. You can interpret them. Maybe it's Elijah's assumption of heaven, which looks like a dome, but that can lead to a more modern depiction that might make us think of a UFO. And once again, we can see here another spaceship kind of shape, and they say that it could be the ascension of Elijah. We'll talk about Elijah later on because it is very interesting, the story about him. And here also another one with these inscriptions, and obviously we can see another UFO shape. Also in Asia, there is a Tibetan manuscript dated in the 10th century. In a passaga of the Prajnaparamita Sutra, the Perfection of the Wisdom Sutras, the Vimanas, a flying vehicle of Hindu origin, is depicted. The text assures that it flew with the speed of the wind and gave birth to a melodious sound. Very interesting this, because we can think about this maybe seeing so many movies and about spaceships, Star Trek, Star Wars and so much others. A melodious sound and the speed of the wind. Also keep this in mind because we will see it later on. We can see it here also, as it has mentioned, on the back with the same kind of shape, like a hat. More Catholic paintings. We can see here, what I believe would be Jesus Christ and the Virgin Mary, and below them a series of clouds as if they were spaceships. Also, once again, people inside a kind of vehicle going at high speed with fire around it. Once again, we see this orb shape, and at the top right we can see another dimensional portal of people going through this portal to contact this world. And they are releasing something as if they were to have a certain kind of contact between another realm and this one. Once again, another painting with these clouds in shapes of UFOs. So very curious to see how in different cultures, not only in Hindus or in Australia or in South America, and also in Europe, we can see the same references to these UFOs in paintings. And take a look also at this medal. This is a medal of Hamburg of 1653. And if we zoom in, we can see at the top there is a kind of cloud spaceship, and in the center it has the name of Jehovah, of Yahweh. These are the four letters, the YHWH, and at the center, at the bottom, it has the letter Shin, of the Hebrew letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And it says, in Latin, it is saying basically that this city is protected, is under the protection of God. And it will remain protected by the shield of God. So it is referring to Yahweh, that is Jehovah, which is Jesus Christ, as a spaceship, basically. Curious to see it also in a medal of the 17th century. Now, some people believe that these contacts that there have been of the extraterrestrials with humanity, they refer to them as the Anunnakis. They are certain beings that they say come from other planets, from the planet Nibiru, if I remember correctly, and they were giants. They were beings that were much bigger than us and came to the Earth and did some kind of genetic manipulation with human beings to be able to even create us and modify life here on Earth. So let's read a bit about it. It is said that more than 6,000 years ago, the Sumerians, known as the first civilization in the world, discovered the Anunnakis, the gods who came to Earth to create humanity. As I said, these beings apparently came here. This is something that is very well known through the New Age movement, and they are the ones that created human beings through genetic manipulation. And the Sumerians were the ones that apparently had the contact with these beings, as we can see here. This is a representation of the god Shamash. If we take a look, we can see here a 8-pointed radius wheel, which is actually a sun worship symbol. And we continue reading. It says, in the book The Anunnaki Connection, the archaeologist and historian Heather Lynn says that these beings were anthropomorphic gods of a very striking look, had large eyes, sharp factions, and distinguished themselves for having a beard. They were also much taller than the Sumerians, even claimed to be giants. This theory is born from the image of the stone tablets dedicated to Shamash, the sun god of the Babylonian civilization. Well, we recently have been talking precisely about the sun gods and sun worship. So how come it has a relationship between extraterrestrials and sun worship? Well, if we've been seeing the previous conferences that we've been presenting, then you could link up and find out what it is truly talking about. But we'll see further on. Now, the Anunnakis, is this a true, really connection? Is it real? This was the man that brought out this belief, basically, this apparent discovery. He was the one that translated those Sumerian tablets, the stone where the engravings were talking about this. So his translation said that these beings came from this planet. This man was Zecharia Sitchin. Well, it's curious that this man was found and filmed inside a Masonic temple during a ritual. And at the moment when the camera is just about to film him, he covers his face. And also he is seen given a Masonic handshake with Jordan Maxwell, both of them Freemasons of high grade. So, well, actually in our conferences, in our Spanish conferences, we showed how someone that had information from the Illuminati said that Zecharia Sitchin basically wrote his book from orders of John Paul II. So the Vatican is involved in this theory of the Anunnakis. Let's see how he was caught on the video, Zecharia Sitchin. Well, there he was, Zecharia Sitchin, caught on camera and proven basically that he was a Freemason. And yes, he was involved in the Vatican in the creation of this idea of the Anunnakis. But is it all a mistake? I mean, is it all a lie, the thing about the Anunnakis? Well, it's curious to note that these beings were giants and came from an old age, and they were linked to sun worship. Well, there are actually human remains, fossilized remains, of bones of human beings about 4.5 to 5 meters tall. I've even seen a little finger, a bone of a little finger, about this size, about 12 centimeters or so. So it's curious to see that there are actually remains of giants on Earth. So there is some part of truth in this, and we'll talk about it maybe further on. UFOs today. Now, let's talk about UFOs today in current days. Now, this is the National Archives of the WAP records that was released from the United States government. Trump says that he is going to release all the information that there is about UFOs and WAPs and etc. You know that there was a trial, this was quite famous recently, and to be able to open this information, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. And in here, there is a small amount of information on UFOs and recordings and filmings, of which we will see one of them, to see how the governments of the United States are interested in us to be aware of these sightings and to know that there are certain things flying around the airs that we don't quite know what they are. Let's take a look at this article. It says Pentagon declassified videos of 3 UFO sightings. And this is the video here.
Dude, this is going on, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots to the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is the LNS, dude. Well, if there's like... Look at that thing. It's rotating. Nickel 6-1 Tango, small J on it. Oh, got it! Woohoo! Roger, there's troubleshooting right here. Did you box moving target?
No, I took an auto track.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Wow, look at that, man.
Well, quite strange, right? So this was actually verified from the US Navy. They confirmed that these recordings are true, they are real. So what are these objects that can apparently start to spin around? Do we have this kind of technology? We'll talk about this also. Let's take a look also at this article here in Spain. It says, these are declassified reports on UFOs in Spain. A total of 80 documents that are available to the public. Current events have forced us to seriously rethink whether we are alone in the universe or whether there is a life out there. So this is what they want us to think about. They want us to reflect if we are really truly alone in the universe. They want to implant in our minds the idea that we are not alone, that we are accompanied by other beings in other parts of the universe, and that maybe even they have a close contact with us. This is the thing that they want us to believe. Why? Why would the governments want us to think about this? Last Thursday, this issue took absolute relevance after the declarations of 3 ex-military men who affirmed that the United States is hiding UFOs and non-human remains. In 2016, the Ministry of Defense made public 80 reports on UFO sightings that had occurred between 1962 and 1995. Anyone can access them through the website of the Virtual Defense Library. All the files appear there, from the first one in 1962 in Murcia to the last one which occurred in Seville in 1995. In the documents there are sightings of all kinds, land, sea, air, in many places of the peninsula and on many dates. Moreover, the phenomena have been very varied. Some documents speak of UFOs, others of lights or luminous circles, luminous spinning tops, etc. There are even some that speak of concepts such as saucers, beings, or even extraterrestrials. Finally, the Army has not pronounced itself on these sightings, keeping silent about them, although it is the Army itself and the Ministry of Defense who have compiled the testimonies on the sightings. The intelligence section of the Combat Air Command keeps the reports on the matter in custody and classified. So it is the government itself, through the Army, the military, that release the information, that introduce the concept to the population that we are not alone, that we have to start thinking about that maybe we are living with other beings around the universe, but they keep and reserve the information for themselves. So they just let go of a tiny portion of it so that we can, well, bite the bait basically and be interested in this. So why do the governments want us to believe that we are not alone? Terrestrial UFOs, because we've seen about concepts of, alien spaceships, technology from other places, but what about technology here on Earth? Does humanity have this kind of technology? Does the military have these kind of spaceships that can fly around in the manner that looks like a UFO, a flying saucer? Drone sightings in New Jersey and even California. What is really going on? This is something that's happened recently. Those stories you hear in New Jersey, it's unclear if they're drones or something else, but the nighttime sightings are definitely generating a lot of buzz, conspiracy theories, and craned necks looking skyward. Some theorize that the drones came from an Iranian mothership. Others think they are from the Secret Service guarding President-elect Donald Trump's property in Bedminster. There are those who worry about China, the deep state, and other possibilities. A video shows a whitish light flying in a dark sky, and one commenter concludes that it is otherworldly. Clear orbs, the person says. Others chime in to say it's a plane or perhaps a satellite. Another group called for literally hunting the drones, shooting them down like turkeys. Don't shoot anything in the sky, experts warn. Well, yes, it is funny actually. Donald Trump has even advised that if you see them, you can even shoot them down if you don't know if they may be a menace to us. So what did people start to do? Well, people started to buy weapons like crazy and start to weaponize themselves to start shooting things in the sky that they don't even know what they are. Fortunately, nothing happened. But it is true that there were many filmings, many recordings of things that were even the size of a bus or large size cars. So if there are buses flying on the American skies and the government is not informing about what they truly are, then there is a mystery obviously that people want to resolve. Let's take a look at this small video on Trump about the New Jersey drones.
Just hours after his inauguration, President Trump said He wants to get to the bottom of those mystery drones that popped up around the country. Many of them, seen up and above New Jersey, the East Coast. He thinks the Biden administration knew more about the sightings than they explained. And he promised to release a report on the drones within a day of taking office. Nick's back with more on this one. Nick, what exactly is the president saying about these drones?
Marky, good morning. The president said he would look into it. We may not get new details on those mysterious drone sightings that happened up and down the East Coast today, but Mr. Trump put Chief of Staff Susie Wiles on the case. He promised to look into drone reports from November and December and where any investigation into them currently stands. But when reporters questioned him in the Oval Office for that day one update, he said he'd deliver. Mr. Trump looked to Wiles to find some answers.
I would like to find out what it is and tell the people. Yeah, why don't we find out immediately? I mean, I can't imagine it's an enemy, or there would have been, people would have gotten blown up all over. Maybe they were testing things. I don't know why they wouldn't have said what it was. They had a lot of them flying over Bedminster, which is interesting.
Now, in December, there were reported drone sightings near the Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey, across that state, and in Pennsylvania, New York, and Connecticut. The unexplained drones and endless concerns from the public prompted the FAA to issue temporary drone bans over New Jersey and parts of New York. And reports of sightings declined rapidly, but President Trump believes there are still questions left unanswered.
Well, Trump said that he is going to try and get into the matter and reveal all the information, but still it remains a mystery. And I think it will probably remain a mystery and it will not be revealed. So just to know that, yes, there is certain kind of technology that the military have, but they are never revealed to the public. They never show us truly what it is they have and what is flying through the skies. Now let's take a look at this, because this is quite curious. When really did this technology appear? The mystery of the so-called secret relationship between Nikola Tesla and Maria Orsic. Well, Nikola Tesla is one of the most famous scientists and inventors that there has ever been. It says both were of Yugoslavian origin, animal lovers, vegetarians without completed university studies. Well, actually they were from Serbia. But anyway, single and childless, without religion, anti-war, poor and almost destitute, and both were closely watched by military and intelligence agencies. Nikola Tesla by the FBI, the OSS and CIA, and Maria Orsic by the Gestapo, the SS, and Nikola emigrated to New York and Maria to Berlin. If Nikola Tesla's discoveries and inventions in the electromagnetic field were one of the greatest secrets guarded by the military agencies, the degree of security classification of his numerous correspondence with Maria Orsic was even greater, and many do not know who she was. Maria and Nikola were related in the construction of an anti-gravitational flying machine and by contacts with extraterrestrials. Now this is something that many people do not know, but Nikola Tesla, he actually explained how many of his inventions got to his mind. It wasn't something that he dreamt of. It wasn't something that he started studying and drawed out the plans. They were revelations. They were things that came from voices that he heard. Where were these voices coming from? Let's carry on. Nikola was a scientist, a genius in electromagnetism, but Maria was a girl who liked to wear her hair long below her waist, almost to her knees, who taught ballet to beginners and gave language classes, but who one day fell into a trance and began to have continuous mediumistic experiences in which she received all kinds of technical data and plans for the construction of an anti-gravitational flying ship. Both Maria and Tesla had numerous correspondence of which nothing is known and always constituted a classified dossier of the highest security. Among Tesla's papers were found elaborate details, drawings and plans of an anti-gravity flying machine, along the lines of the German Bell UFO and Maria Orsic's Vril. In Nazi Germany, there were two differentiated lines in the construction of German UFOs or Vrils of the Third Reich. German and Austrian scientists working on propulsion systems based on traditional or advanced-guard scientific data, which soon passed to the control of the SS, and the project of Maria Orsic and Dr. Otto Schumann based on technical data offered by extraterrestrials. So yes, the Nazis in the 20th century were already using this kind of technology. And they came precisely from these people. They were practicing with these anti-gravitational flying objects, flying saucers basically. And these plans after the Second World War, well, they fell in hands of whom? Well, probably in hands of other people. Think about who has Tesla's property today and who is the owner of this, well, basically of his name and his inventions. Maria was receiving technical data in the Sumerian language from beings claiming to be messengers from the planet Ashtari, Aldebaran, and Dr. Otto Schumann, right from the start, was impressed to find that Victor Schauberger's and Karl Haushofer's avant-garde aircraft projects were not as advanced. So these people that were engineers in the Nazi military were astounded to find a certain plans and technology that came from a woman who was a complete, well, she was poor. She wasn't in a rich family. She had no studies. But in a certain moment, she starts to receive a certain mediumistic information, and her plans and technology that she reveals is much higher in technology and in power than the people that they have been studying. So obviously they're saying, where is this woman getting this information from? Nikola Tesla had information about extraterrestrials which he wrote down in Sanskrit in his notebook, and he said that 2 alien races were at war. 2 alien races at war. Doesn't this sound familiar? I mean, it is quite curious to think that we are here on planet Earth and that there are 2 alien races that are in confrontation. They are at war and we are in the middle. Doesn't this sound familiar? He was worried about mankind, and for that reason he invented the death ray, which could destroy alien spacecraft. Yes, this death ray that we can see in Star Wars in the Death Star. This ray that could even destroy planets. And actually it's being used today in the military. And this is an image of the flying saucer, the technology that Maria Orsic had invented. And these are plans precisely from Nikola Tesla. You can see on the image on the right, well, how advanced this technology was for the time when it was written, that they even have kind of tablets in their hands. So they have flat screens, and to be able to touch them with their hands and do the controls with their own hands. And this was in, well, so many years ago. So curious to see how Tesla had information coming from somewhere to reveal something that was going to come in the future, technology that we are using today. But this was, well, many decades ago. But it's curious to see the connection of Sumerian, precisely the culture that had the relation with the Anunnakis, apparently, with this sun god Shamash. So there is also this connection between the information that came to Nikola Tesla to this Shamash sun god, to the age of the Sumerians, to the Anunnakis and these giant beings and the extraterrestrials. They are actually linked together. So what are aliens truly? Because we've seen UFOs through different cultures, the WAPs, human technology, different kind of conspiracies and beliefs of what these extraterrestrials could be. But what are aliens truly? We will see a video now that is quite long, but it will reveal us an information that I assure you, you will never have heard of. And it is amazing to see what really these extraterrestrials are. And yes, they have communication with us. They can communicate with us, but there is a way to be able to block this communication if we want to. First, just to notice that in the in-world cards, in the Illuminati New World Order, there is the flying saucer and the alien abduction. This is what we are going to talk about now. Alien abduction. Is there secret societies involved in this? Is there Satanism involved in this? Is there some kind of high powers in this world that have truly communication with these beings coming from other worlds and that we do not know about? Let's see what this man has to say. This man is called Joe Jordan. He's president of the CE34 research group, and he is a ufologist, basically. He has spent many, many years of his life studying situations of abductions with people and registering people that have explained to him their testimonies of what happened to them when they received the abduction, how they could not be able to move, they were feeling body paralysis, and they could even see these beings doing terrible things to them. And he has hundreds of testimonies of people that have received, have experienced these terrible moments in their life. He explains here, he's a 27-year member of the Mutual UFO Network, the world's oldest and largest secular civilian non-profit UFO research and investigation organization. He says, I am a member of the MUFON STAR team and a member of the MUFON Inner Circle. He is one of the most important ufologists in the United States, and precisely because of certain information that he found out about through his testimonies and started to reveal to the public, he was discredited by the people in the realm. And we will see precisely now why this is.
What follows is the case of Bill D. Bill D was an experiencer that came to us. He was coming to my meetings and he had a story to tell. And one of my investigators and I took the time to go to his home, set up a VHS recorder, and videoed him for 2 hours and get his testimony of what he'd been through down. Bill's experience took place in Christmas, Florida, 1976. His abduction started out typically late at night, in bed. Earlier in the evening, he saw some anomalous lights through his living room window over a forest north of his house. He assumed it was a police helicopter searching for drug runners or something. Whatever it was, it agitated his dogs for several hours thereafter. He eventually went to bed. He was lying in bed, kept wide awake by barking dogs, when paralysis set in. This is something we hear about the experiencers. First sensation they get is they start to feel this paralysis. He was unable to cry out. He could see nothing but a whitish gray, like a mist or fog, although he sensed someone or something was in his room. His wife didn't waken. The next thing he knew, he was being levitated above his bed. Then he had the sensation he was being suspended by what felt like a pole inserted into his rectum. By this time, he was alive with terror, but he couldn't scream. Here is where the story becomes very interesting. The following is an excerpt taken directly from the transcript of Mr. D's interview. I thought I was having a satanic experience, that the devil had gotten a hold of me and had shoved a pole up my rectum and was holding me up in the air. So helpless, I couldn't do anything. I said, Jesus, Jesus, help me, or Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. When I did, there was a feeling or a sound or something that either my words I had thought or the words that I had tried to say or whatever had hurt whatever was holding me up in the air on this pole. And I felt like it was withdrawn and I fell. I hit the bed because it was like I was thrown back in bed. I really can't tell, but when I did, my wife woke up and asked why I was jumping on the bed. That's an unusual case in a number of ways. This man claimed that he had been able to stop the experience while it was happening. Of all the research we had read, from all the top researchers in the abduction phenomenon research, never had we read where anybody could stop an experience. It wasn't there. So what did we have here? Was this guy off his rocker? Wasn't remembering properly or what? We were definitely puzzled because most of the researchers said that the experience could not be stopped. But yet, I had an experiencer that said it could. It had happened to him. Well, my next thing was to find out more about this experience. I contacted some of the top researchers in this country in abduction research, the ones that had been on the lecture tours, the ones that had written the books, information we had consumed to get us to the point to where we could call ourselves abduction researchers. Called them at home on the phone. I asked these guys, I said, can you help me with a particular case? They said, sure, we'd love to. Introduced myself, told them a little bit about the case. First thing out of their mouths, can we go off the record? I said, sure we can. Just help me out here. Off the record means I can tell you what they said, but I can't tell you who said it. I do respect anonymity if it's asked. MUFON always respects anonymity, even with experiencers. You come to me, you don't want your story told or you don't want your name given out, we will respect that. These guys shared with me, the ones that I talked to by phone, that they too had come across cases like this. And I said, really? I said, all we hear is you cannot stop this experience. But yet you're telling me you also have come across people who have been able to stop this experience and in that manner? And they said, yes, we have. Well, my next question is how come you don't share this? Why isn't this being shared? If you have documented cases like the one I just came across, why isn't this being shared? One of two answers, or both answers, came out of each of the researchers' mouths that I talked to, off the record. First thing out of their mouth was, we really didn't know what to make of it. I'm fine with that. I didn't know what to make of it. But the problem is when they brought up the second answer. We really didn't want to go there because it might affect our credibility in the realm. You understand what I just said? They have information that we rely on, their research, their sharing of information, for answers. But they're sitting on it. You know, all through this UFO field, you hear about government cover-up this, government cover-up that. What I just found here was we got to cover up amongst the researchers themselves that people are relying on for the truth. And I shared with them, I said, you know, I got nothing to lose here. I'm a new investigator. If you're telling me there's more cases out there like that, I'm going to go find them, and I'm going to document this. This was now going to become my piece of the UFO puzzle. There's a lot of researchers. They each have a piece of the puzzle. We're all trying to bring them together and put them on a table so we can see what the picture looks like. Guy just shared a piece of it with you just a few minutes ago. This was my piece that I was bringing together. I was going to document other cases like this and find out how many there were. How big is this? Okay? And you know what they all said? Please do, because we can't. Over the next 10 years, up till now, I have worked with over 400 abduction experience cases, all matching that first experience. That they've been able to stop the experience by calling out in the name and authority of Jesus Christ. I did not ask to do this research. I did not ask for this piece of the puzzle. This happened to be the one I was dealt. I had no idea it would get this big. I still have cases coming in. We started posting those cases on the internet just for the evidence. Written testimonies from the people themselves. As more and more and more and more got put on the internet on our website, more and more people were seeing them. And then the next thing I know, I've got people coming to me and saying, I've been reading those testimonies on your website where people have been able to stop this horrific experience that they're going through. Can you help me stop it? Well, that brings us to a whole nother level. We took the findings from these hundreds of cases, looked at the similarities, looked at how these people's lives were affected and how they were able to stop the experience. And we put it together and said, I think we can help you. by sharing what these people have done. There's 3 questions that the top researchers in the world are still asking. Well, 1 question, but there's 3 answers to it. That question is, why does this happen to these people? They still do not have an answer to that question. But in the hundreds of cases that we've worked with, and not just myself, Guy's worked with cases, Pastor Chris Ward's worked with cases. There's more and more and more. Okay? This is where the evidence is coming in. This is where you have to put the documented evidence together to show what you're dealing with. What we found working with these experiencers is a commonality. An answer to that question, why has it happened to certain people? A, you asked for it. You kidding me? People ask for this? You would be amazed. We've stood there in the vendor area with our tables at the Roswell Convention Center in Roswell at the UFO Convention and Conference and Festival, July 4th weekend, and people come up to the table and say, man, I'd really like to have that happen to me. I'm going, please be careful what you ask for. People really want to know what it's about, to the point where they're asking, let it happen to me. Believe it or not, they really do that. B, some people unknowingly open a door to the experience, and the commonality there was involvement in the New Age metaphysical realm or the occult realm. We saw it over and over and over and over and over. When you engage in unknown things outside of God, the creator of His Word, you make yourself vulnerable to these entities. We have the documentation to show this over and over and over. We found this reason to be the most often found root cause. But there was a problem that we still couldn't answer for some people for a while. We finally put it together. We had adults coming to us telling us their stories, and they said, you know, I've had this experience since I was a little child, 4 or 5 years old. Well, how does a 4 or 5-year-old open doors to things that they shouldn't do? You know, they're not dabbling in the occult. They're not dabbling in New Age practices. What we found is you are part of a generational cycle or generational curse. When asked about the experiencer's parents or early family life, we found that the opening had come from one or more of the parents. It is important how you raise your children. When there is a godly covering over the family by the head of the household, the family is protected. But if there is no godly covering, the family is open to these type of supernatural experiences. We found 3 answers that the secular realm still doesn't have an answer for. They don't want these answers. But we have hundreds of cases that show this is why it happens to these people. 1 of 3 ways. Some of them more than 1. Some of them you'll see 2 of them together. Going to the counseling side of this, when people ask us, how do I get set free? Can you help me? I came across this. My wife had read this book and passed it on to me, and she says, you know, I think your research and ministry needs to look at this. I think it would be very helpful. When I read this, it comes from A More Exciting Way, Be in Health by Dr. Henry W. Wright. When I read these 8 R's, I thought, you know, this is amazing, because this is exactly what we were sharing with people, but had never written it down. Number 1, recognize. You must recognize this experience for what it is. 2, responsibility. You must take responsibility for what you recognize. That means you got to do something about it. Repent. Repent to God for participating with what you recognize. Renounce. You must take what you recognize as your enemy and renounce it. Remove it. Get rid of it once and for all. All those little trinkets we pick up over the years and think they're nothing to them in our household, got to go. People that are still dabbling in the occult, the New Age, and still searching all over the internet for answers to this UFO phenomenon, if you want to be set free from this, got to let it go. It leaves an open door for these entities to work in your life. Resist. When it tries to come back, resist it. Why would they put that one in there? Because they do come back. And it takes constant resistance. But these people, hundreds of cases documented, show that there's an authority over these entities when they do mess with you. So much for high technology that Hollywood's been trying to say that's behind all of this. Extraterrestrial high technology, excuse me, doesn't hold a torch at all to the name and authority of Jesus Christ. Imagine that. This is what the research is showing. The secular realm is starting to grasp this. In the 50s and 60s, these entities said they came from Venus and Mars and behind the moon. Guess what? As soon as we started putting ships out there, they backed off. Now they're coming from the stars. Guess what? We got telescopes that can see out to these stars. Now where do they say they're from? Interdimensional. They lie over and over and over. They change their story. It's been progressing over the years. This interdimensional effect that they seem to be showing is being recognized by the top researchers in the world. When I had the opportunity to be in director of the 2008 Roswell UFO conference, I brought some of the top researchers in the world to that conference. Almost every single one of them had come to the conclusion that this was an interdimensional entity, no longer an EBE, extraterrestrial biological entity. It's taken 40 years for them to get to that point, but they all were backing up what my research is showing before I ever had a chance to talk at that conference. Rejoice, number 7. Give thanks to God for setting you free. And number 8, restore. Help someone else get free. How do you help someone else get free? Help them recognize. How do you do that? You share your story. This is what we've been doing on the website. This is what we found from the research. That these people were going through these steps to be free from the oppression of these so-called alien entities. Again, I didn't ask for this. I was a UFO investigator. Just all I wanted to be. I got dealt this piece of the puzzle, and I had to run with it. We have the cases documented on the website. I have over 80 documented testimonies of people who can testify that what I'm telling you is the truth. Not only in written form, but now we're recording them in audio form. We have 2 different radio stations that are actually stepped out there and said, you know what? These people need to actually be heard. So now we're documenting it in audio form. Over 400 cases we've worked with. I'm still having them come in on a regular basis. How many cases does it take? How many? To get you to understand that there's a problem with this extraterrestrial phenomenon. Tell me 500. I'll bring you 500. Tell me you need 1,000. We're getting there. When I stood up at that conference at the panel discussion last year, one of the researchers said, you know, if only one of his cases is real, we have got to look at this. I got 400 real ones. I got 80 you can read on the website. Little different than what you expected to hear. This is not what Hollywood's given you. This is not what television's given you. We are probably the most hated people in the UFO realm because we're not pushing an agenda. All we're doing is sharing research that goes against their agenda. We're respected, but they don't like us being there. This is evidence you cannot refute, and that's what burns them. It's one thing to stand up here like Guy was talking and say, he's off the wall, he's a fanatic. I'm MUFON. Belong to the largest UFO organization in the world. They know what I'm doing. They know about the research I have. They don't like it either. But they have to deal with it because I took their methodology to document it, and they have to respect that. This is what we wanted to bring into you tonight. The most powerful evidence in the UFO community right now. And it ain't going away. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There seems to be a definite spiritual connection to this phenomenon. What is that spiritual connection? Looking at it from it's leading to a Christian perspective. I didn't ask for that. I wasn't a Christian. I was a secular, agnostic UFO researcher that had this dumped in my lap. But we must look at this from the Christian perspective because that seems to be where it's leading. All right. You've heard a lot of information tonight. I told you it would probably bring up a lot of questions. Back to where's the evidence? Okay? That's the one thing I wanted to make sure that you guys got a chance to see. Living evidence. Okay? This is what it all comes down to. Can I back up what I'm showing you guys? Can I back up that these cases exist? Blade. Blade's come down from Gainesville. These are testimonies that you can actually read about and hear their verbal testimonies on the radio shows that we're posting on the internet. All of these ones you'll see tonight, we've pretty much had a chance to get them up there where you can go back and listen to their whole stories. Want to say a couple words?
My nickname, I go by the nickname of Blade, but in the past several years since I've become a Christian, and incidentally I became a Christian on July 13th, 1979, and that was a Friday. So I always tell people, God's got a sense of humor. But anyways, over the years, more not so recent, but more so a while back, I've had 16 to 17 different experiences with not UFOs or alien entities that I was aware of, but rather demonic entities or ghosts or things of this nature that people, think are, your dead ancestor or your dead mom or dad, or it's, whatever. Yeah, I'm a little nervous, but anyways. What I'd like to say is, like it says in Luke 10:19, that Jesus Christ has given us the authority to trample on scorpions and serpents. And scorpions and serpents, that's just another name or another way of putting it for demonic entities. And through what I've experienced and through the things I went through, I can tell you that when you invoke the name of Jesus Christ, when you're being attacked or harassed by these entities, by these ghosts or demons or aliens, whatever, or so-called aliens, whatever it might be, it works. I know it works because I've been there. And I'd just like to encourage you, if you ever face anything of this nature, just remember that, like he was saying earlier, Jesus Christ has been given all the authority, and that flows through us. His authority through us to invoke his name because he lets us to fight his enemy, because that's actually where these are coming from. They're agents of his great enemy, Satan. So just keep this in mind, and it's nice to be here tonight. Thank you very much.
Kathy? Kathy's come down from Jacksonville. Kathy was one of the first ones I came across that would publicly speak about her experiences. The last time that Chris and Guy and I got together, well, besides this summer, was 10 years ago. And we spoke at a church up in Titusville. And Kathy was the first one to come forward and actually, as a testimony, give her testimony. And she's got an awesome story.
About 10 years ago, I was dropped in my bed. Before that, I had no clue that anything like that had ever happened to me. Didn't expect it to. It was the movies. It was Hollywood. It was fun to look at. But when I opened my eyes, there was a gray alien within inches of my face, and I actually felt his breath on my skin. I turned away to get away from him and fell back to sleep. The next morning, my son opened my eyes by saying, "That wasn't an alien, Mom. It was a demon." I got on the internet. I went to the library. I stumbled across Joe Jordan, who opened my eyes even more and reminded me that I did already have the authority as a born-again Christian to make this go away. About 2 months later, it happened again, and as they approached my bed, I just frankly said no 3 times, claiming the authority of the blood of Christ, and they disappeared into thin air. And now I tell my story because I want people to know, if you seek this stuff out, you will find it. It is real, but it's not what Hollywood is telling you it is.
Hollywood's not going to tell you that part. There's an end to that story, and it's a happy ending. Joyce Aarons, come on up. Joyce is from Missouri. Okay. You want to talk?
You know, I really don't know what to say because all these people have stood up there and said everything that I feel. My God is an awesome God. He is an awesome God. And I can testify to what all of these people are saying, that I stopped him dead in his tracks. He could never touch me again, ever. He will never have that chance. They tried once, and it didn't work. I've never had them come back at me again. My family are still riding the fence. But I left that up to him, and he'll take care of that. Of that, I have no doubt. It may take a little while, but I can stand here and say that my husband, my daughter, and my son have not had any more experiences since I became a believer and gave it to him. Thank you.
Evidence? This is the most powerful evidence in the UFO community. You won't see this on TV. You won't see it at the conferences. You won't read about it from all the secular researchers. I've got 400 cases, 80 of them that have gone public. I bring you 8 of them right here today. This is really happening. The experience is really happening to these people. But there's a name and authority over that experience. So much for their high technology. It bows to the name and authority of Jesus Christ.
Well, I don't know what you think about this, but I definitely find it quite impressive. Hundreds of testimonies of people that when they have these experiences, when they are paralyzed, when they cannot speak, when they are receiving even physical experiences that are torture, when they call to Jesus' name, it stops. And as he explained, no one ever registered that these experiences could be stopped. But in the name of Jesus Christ, praying to him, they stopped. So how come an extraterrestrial, ET, big-headed, long-fingered shape like the one that we have here, apparently could stop at the name of Jesus Christ? What power does the name of Jesus have against an ET, against one of these beings? Well, the thing is that, as he said, these are not these beings. These are demons themselves. Extraterrestrials are nothing more than demons. That, yes, they are extraterrestrials in the meaning that they are out of this earth. They are from outside of this earth. They are not terrestrials. But they are spiritual beings that have contact with humans here. Remember how Nikola Tesla said that there was a war between two races of extraterrestrials. We have both angels and demons. And they are in conflict and they are in war. For what? For us. One side is fighting for us and the other side is fighting against us. And that side is the one that wants us to perish. To perish and not find salvation. This is precisely what they want. But in the name and power of Jesus Christ, this can stop. And not only alien experiences, because I can say in my own experience that it's not only about aliens, it's about, for example, shadow forms that we can see, or sounds we can hear in our house, or maybe dead relatives coming to visit us that come as if they were dead relatives, but they are demons impersonating them. And in the name of Jesus Christ, they stop and go away. Well, this is very, very powerful. This truth that is behind the UFO phenomenon that no one is talking about. And it is revealed in the Bible. It says here in Revelation 16, verses 13 to 14, "And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs. Like frogs. Long fingers, like with membranes, big-headed, big eyes. These alien kind of things are mentioned in the Bible. And they come out of the mouth of the dragon which is Satan himself, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world to gather them to the battle of that great day of God Almighty." The Bible explains how there will be a moment during the plagues, that there will be spaceships coming down. There will be aliens, there will be extraterrestrials having contact with human beings. And it says here, to gather the world to a great big battle. So maybe even before the plagues, we are to see great events in this world of flying saucers and spaceships. Blue beam or not, it doesn't matter. But these things are real, they are true. Ellen White talked about this also. She said, "Furthermore, God has expressly forbidden all pretended communication with departed spirits." Yes, departed spirits, relatives who have died, and many people believe that they are in heaven, in hell, or in the 5th dimension, or so on. They are nothing more, these apparitions to people, than these demons appearing as if they were the familiar spirits. And they can even sound like them, they can look like them, and they can tell you things that only you and that dead person can know, because they are around us. And they have a register of everything that we talk about with the people around us. She says, "In the days of the Hebrews, there was a class of people who claimed, as do the spiritualists of today, to hold communication with the dead. But the familiar spirits, as these visitants from other worlds were called, are declared by the Bible to be the spirits of devils." And it says compare in Numbers 25, Psalms 106, Corinthians 10 and Revelation 16. Yes, the Bible talks about this, about beings from other worlds, from other galaxies. 2nd of Chronicles, it says, "And he ordained him priests for the high places and for the devils and for the calves which he had made." Yes, there were people in those times who were worshipping demons through idols, and they built their sanctuaries in high places to apparently get closer to the spiritual realm where these beings are, although they are around us everywhere. Like the Tower of Babel, for example. They built it not only to get themselves away from a future flood, if there were to be one, and also it was to get higher to these beings, to have contact with them. Jeremiah 33, 32, 35 says, "And they built the high places of Baal, which are in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to cause their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire unto Molech, which I commanded them not, neither came into my mind that they should do this abomination to cause Judah to sin." So they even worship these demons with human sacrifices, killing their own firstborn to be able to worship these gods, which were nothing more than demons themselves. And who builds their sanctuaries in high places? This is the sanctuary of the Mother of God in Catalonia, The Mother of God is known as the Virgin Mary. And here is the Virgin of Covadonga in Asturias in Spain also. As you can see, they like to build their sanctuaries in high places. But it's curious because practically all the cultures, the pagan cultures of this world, build their sanctuaries in high mountains. And, well, the Catholic Church even builds them normally on top of ancient temples of pagan cultures. So where these pagan cultures were doing their human sacrifices to these devils, the Catholic Church built their sanctuaries and cathedrals and churches on top of these old buildings because they are doing the same cult. They are doing the same worship, but disguised as Christianism, basically, as we will see now. 1 Corinthians chapter 10 says, "What I say then, that the idol is anything, or that which is offered in sacrifice to idols is anything, but I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to God. And I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils. Ye cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of the devils. Ye cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and of the table of the devils." So the idols that were used, these statues, these figures, are a representation of these devils, demons, that we're in contact with. There were people that actually saw these demons, like, for example, the Australians we mentioned, and so many other cultures. But were these demons truly real? I mean, were there human beings in this world that were worshipped as if they were gods, like these demons have been? Because if we remember that there are giants around this world, there have been previously, before and little after the flood, there were people like Goliath and much bigger. Then were some of these people deified? I mean, converted as if they were gods and made people worship them? Psalms 96 verse 5 says, "For all the gods of the nations are idols, but the Lord made the heavens." So all the gods of the nations are demons. There is only one God, which is the Lord. Exodus chapter 20. These are the 10 commandments. "Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the 3rd and 4th generation of them that hate me, and shewing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments." Keep my commandments. So God has a special love to those that keep his commandments. And one of them, the second commandment, is saying, "Do not bow down to these images, nor make yourself any graven figure to be able to worship false gods. Keep my commandments." And the Catholic Church, do they keep the commandments of God? We see here that they are going directly against them, bowing down to idols, bowing down to graven images, to sculptures, to figures, to demons themselves. Do they know this? They certainly do. This is a figure, for example, of a Catholic saint. This is Father Pius. And many people also go to bow down to these saints as if they were in the heavens, to ask them for favors, to pray to them, etc. It's nothing different to the ancient Roman culture where they worshipped their gods. And they had their different divinities and their statues where they bowed down to them. It's the same thing, but disguised as Christianism. We can see also the different countries in the world that they all have idols and figures to worship. And in all times, the Hebrew people also were mixed in with pagan worship when they came out from Egypt. And this was one of the worships that was right below Mount Sinai. They were worshipping this god here, the golden calf, which is Hathor. And he is seen sometimes, or he or she, better said, breastfeeding human beings. Can you see this here? This is quite curious, right? And at the top we see this figure, which is exactly the same horns and circle that we can see on the head of the goddess Isis, also in Egypt. And she is also breastfeeding a little child. Curious, right? Well, Isis is also related to Asherah. And we've been talking about this in the last conference. As you can see, also breastfeeding and related to fertility, to basically sex cult. a goddess like the Pachamama, the Mother Earth, related also to Ishtar. So basically the different cultures have had these idols, these goddesses, that they worshipped, and they did certain terrible things to worship them. And the goddess Hera, for example, also in the Roman culture, breastfeeding a little child. Does this not sound familiar to something that we have today in the Roman Catholic Church? Once again, the Virgin Mary. Who is the Virgin Mary? Well, we know that the Virgin Mary, in truth, in history, was the mother of Jesus Christ, not the mother of God. The mother of God incarnated here on earth. But she did not exist before him, as basically what they are saying in the name of the Mother of God. But she is representing also this goddess of ancient times. And the question is, was this person real? Was this woman truly real? One of these idols, this goddess? In the conferences that we are presenting lately, we will be talking about this and unveiling who truly is the representation of the Virgin Mary. Who is she representing actually today? 1 Kings chapter 14:23. For they also built them high places and pillars and Asherim on every high hill and over every green tree. This Asherim for Asherah, which is Ishtar, which is Isis, which is the Virgin Mary today. Deuteronomy 7:5. But thus shall ye deal with them, and ye shall break down their altars and dash in pieces their pillars and hew down their Asherim. So God mandated to destroy these pillars, obelisks, Asherim, all related to these gods and goddesses, sun worship. Yes, the same as the Anunnakis, the same as the demons. It's basically all related. I recommend this conference if you've not seen it. The Mystery of the Obelisk. It's the first of many conferences that we'll be giving here, and we will be following a path to somewhere that will be amazing for all of us. Really, truly impressive. The Mystery of the Obelisks and what there is behind them. Now, let's take a look at this article here of precisely a Catholic priest that he says that believing in aliens does not affect the faith, according to a Vatican advisor. The Vatican's chief astronomer believes there is no conflict between faith in God and the possibility that intelligent life exists on other planets, which could be more evolved than human life. In my opinion, the possibility of life on other planets exists, said the Reverend José Gabriel Funes, a 45-year-old Jesuit priest in charge of the Vatican Observatory and scientific advisor to Pope Benedict XVI. How could we exclude the possibility that life has developed elsewhere, he told the Vatican newspaper in an interview in its Tuesday-Wednesday edition, explaining that the large number of galaxies that have their own planets made it possible. Just as there are a multiplicity of creatures on Earth, there may be other beings, even intelligent ones, created by God. Why can't we talk about an extraterrestrial brother? It would still be part of creation, he said. Funes, who runs observatories located in Rome and Arizona, which curiously this place has a telescope called Lucifer, raised the possibility that the human race could be the stray sheep of the universe. There could be other beings that remain in total friendship with their creator, he said. Well, yes, the Bible does talk about other worlds and other creations, but here he is excluding completely the possibility, for example, of demons having the telescope themselves that is called Lucifer. This man is in charge of the Arizona, or was in charge of the Arizona Observatory with a telescope called Lucifer. So yes, they are in relationship with demons, and they like to look at the skies. Funes, an Argentine national, added that as an astronomer he believed that the most likely explanation for the beginning of the universe was the Big Bang, a theory that the universe expanded from dense matter billions of years ago. Okay, so they are saying that they believe in the Big Bang. And this is true. Actually, Pope Francis some years ago said that God does not have a magic wand. He cannot create the world from nothing. He cannot create human being from nothing. He can do the Big Bang, this big explosion, that nothing becomes suddenly a lot of matter. And with evolution, eventually, we come to be what we are today. So that completely destroys the book of Genesis. They can just throw it in the trash. It's not worth anything. Where it says that God created mankind and the earth and everything that is in it in 6 days, and the seventh day, on the Sabbath, he rested. Of course, he's not interested in that part, is he? For Funes, this does not conflict with faith in God as creator. God is the creator. There is a meaning in creation. We are not the children of an accident, he commented. Well, he contradicts himself, saying basically that God created everything through a Big Bang. As an astronomer, I still believe that God is the creator of the universe and that we are not the product of something accidental, but the children of a good creator who has a loving plan in his mind for us, he concluded. Well, that's quite hypocrite, but being a Jesuit, there's nothing strange to read this in his statement. 1 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 9 says, "For I think God has set forth us the apostles, last of all as men doomed to death. For we are made a spectacle unto the world, both to angels and men." And this word world is cosmos. So yes, we are a spectacle to the cosmos, to the universe, to the other worlds. All the other worlds that have been created, that have not sinned and fallen into evil, are observing the controversy that is here on earth, and they are waiting for the moment for it to finish. They are all expecting Jesus to finally return to earth and end with sin, and Satan and all the other demons to be destroyed. Yes, we are spectacle to the other worlds. Everyone is observing us, and the Bible says this. Job chapter 1 says, "Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them." This is describing a moment when the sons of God is not human beings, it's precisely the angels, came to present themselves before the Lord. "And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil? Then Satan answered the Lord and saith, Doth Job fear God for naught? Hast not thou made an hedge about him? So they are having a kind of intergalactical reunion, because obviously they join together outside of the earth, which is what the Bible describes, in a certain place, like those intergalactical meetings that you can maybe see in Star Wars, for example. And obviously Satan is saying here, does he not obey you because you have a hedge around him? Does this mean that he's built a fence, that he's planted some trees around his house? No. He has protected Job around him with angels. And Satan is saying, of course you have him protected. That is why he obeys you, because everything is going well. What will happen if you take that away from him and I can do what's my will with Job, with your servant? What will he do then? And it says here in verse 10, Thou hast blessed the work of his hand, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. He says, take away his protection, and see if he will continue obeying him. And Job does continue. He is faithful until the end, although everything is taken away from him by the demon himself. So, does God use technology? This is the thing. Yes, God does use technology. Does he need to use technology? He has no need to use technology. For some reason, he has decided to use it. Maybe also because the angels use technology to make them dependent and remember always that they do not have life in themselves. That's we all depend on the Creator. We all depend on the life that is given through him to us as his creation and as his beloved beings. Does the Bible talk about technology of God? Yes, it does. 2 Kings chapter 2. And it came to pass, as they still went on and talked, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire, and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder. And Elijah went up it by a whirlwind into heaven. We can see here an abduction scene, where Elijah is ascended to the heavens to a chariot of fire in the sky. 2 Kings chapter 6, 16 to 17 says, And he answered, Fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them. And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man. This is a moment where Elisha is with one of his servants in a city, and they are about to be attacked by the Syrians. And they can see on the horizon of the mountains that the mountains is full of the Syrian army, and they are alone. They have no protection. They are about to be killed. They are about to be massacred. But Elisha is completely confident in God. And the servant is all worried, saying, Elisha, how is it they are going to destroy us? And Elisha prays to the Lord and says, open his eyes so that he may see. And when he opens his eye, his third eye, to be able to see what we cannot see usually around us, this is what happens. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha. They were surrounded by angels on chariots of fire with horses. Now, literally horses, or was it a way to describe a certain kind of technology that they were mounting on top of, that they use, and the only thing that they could use to describe it was a horse. Like when the Bible says that the Lord will come in the clouds to pick up his people. Now I ask you, are there clouds in space? When you look to outer space, are there any clouds? Well, this is what they describe in the Bible, that Jesus will come with the clouds. So the clouds are referring to something else. Remember this medal of Habsburg, where we saw this Jehovah name written on a cloud on top of a city. 1 Kings chapter 19. We'll go back to Elijah. And he said, Go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains, and brake in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. It is saying that Elijah is there on Mount Sinai, and suddenly the Lord is coming. And there is a great wind, but the Lord is not the wind itself. And after the wind, an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. And it was so, when Elijah heard it, that he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out, and stood in the entering in out of the cave. And behold, there came a voice unto him, and said, What doest thou here, Elijah? So we can imagine that there is a strong wind, and suddenly there's an earthquake, and the mountain starts to shake, and there is a great fire, and suddenly, a still small voice. In other versions, it says, And after the fire, a still small voice, a gentle blowing. And after the fire there was a voice, a soft whisper. There was a sound, thin, quiet. And after the fire, a whistling of gentle air. Remember how this Indian Hindu image there was saying, and the text saying that these kind of spaceships whistled like the air. They made a noise and they flew very, very fast. Doesn't this sound a bit like this? So, as we've seen, Hollywood, where do these ideas come from? Where do these ideas of spaceships come from? Because everything that we have around us and is created comes from God. Now, we know that certain inspirations of creations here on Earth can only come from two sources. One of them can come from the divine, and the other one can come from evil. So, there are inspirations coming from God, which are given through the Holy Spirit, and there are inspirations that come from the demons. So who gave Nikola Tesla and Maria Osik their inspirations to be able to do their plans on this kind of technology, when they were related precisely to this Sumerian language, which takes us back to the god Shamash of the sun, those giants, because the demons actually are giants. They are much bigger than we are. And there is a testimony about Roger Monod, which I recommend to see, where he explains about this. Now, if Satan cannot create anything because he is not God himself, the only one that can create is God, where do the demons get this kind of information? Aren't these things that the demons know about, that they use, that they have seen in other places, and they transmit this information to certain human beings because they are interested in us using them for certain purposes, maybe in the future? Anyhow, Now we'll go back to the Pentagon that we mentioned at the beginning, because this image that we are seeing here is right behind the place that we have just described, where Elijah sees God coming down in this kind of technology. This is the footprint that God left when he came down and the whole mount was burnt. Here we see the Pentagon in Saudi Arabia, right below Mount Sinai. As you can see, it is all burnt, completely black. And at the bottom of the mountain, at the peak of the mountain, there is the golden calf altar, precisely where the Hebrew people, the mixed people with the Egyptians, started to worship that Hathor god of the cow that was breastfeeding the human being. Right above there's the altar of Moses, and a bit higher there's the cave of Elijah, the one that we have just been reading in the Bible, where he has an encounter with God and he comes down and we have this earthquake, this strong wind, and then this gentle voice and whisper. And at the top of the mountain is precisely where Moses received the 10 Commandments under the cloud of fire, of burning fire, when the Hebrews were joined together at the below of the mountain. And right behind it we have this crater with the Pentagon in the middle, which is not burnt, as if it had landed there. And here we can see these images precisely of Mount Sinai and its surroundings to prove that these events were true. This actually happened, and this has been tried to be covered. Quite amazing, right? There are so many people that do not know about these discoveries of Ron Wyatt and other people. And this Pentagon was discovered by a Korean doctor named, well, he was called and usually known as Dr. Kim. And we have been there precisely to be able to document not only the golden calf altar and not only Moses' altar, the cave of Elijah, Mount Sinai, we climbed to the top, but also this Pentagon here, to be able to show the world that something landed here and something burnt the whole top of Mount Sinai. That's why when the Bible explains that a cloud landed with fire on the top of the mountain, where Moses went up, it's not just a cloud. It's something. It's technology. This is a video directly from the Pentagon.
And look what we have found here on the floor. Someone has put some stones here before we came here that it says Allah. This is what our partner Marcelo has told us. Definitely, once more, someone knew of all this before we knew about it and we came. Not only the Korean doctor Kim, of who we knew that there was a Pentagon up here. Look how on the terrain we can see the different types of stones changing from color, from one darker color to the other. Notice that it begins in a darker color over here, but when you get up to this point, it starts to turn a brown color, and there is a line marking a great difference between the two colors of stones. Well, precisely look down now that Fanny is going to take a close-up. You can see the black stones on top of the dry dirt, and you can see that they start to get to a brown color. Now if you look upwards, they are changing the gradient. Here you can see the Pentagon seen from Google Earth. The blue dot is us. We are in one of the sides of the Pentagon. And as you can see, there are some straight lines that make that, and then above on the left you can see two landslides covering parts of the Pentagon. Look at this panoramic image. If you take a look, it's all like a valley, more than 100 meters. It's quite low, except from this high part of the mountain, the burnt one. See that you can see the landslide there of rocks, but everything else is really flat. It's really low. Here you can see the part where we came from, the entrance right behind Angel, and see how also the mountains close up on this area. Conclusion. Something comes from above in vertical. It positions itself above this Pentagon area and whoop, goes upwards, going behind the mountains, burning all that area. A few meters above, you can see now the panoramic view of the Pentagon. Take a good look. Really amazing, truly impressive. The Pentagon with its shape and what's in the middle. Everything burnt. Right in the interior of the Pentagon, it is all burnt. Something descended here and something that burnt this area. And look, there are some circles. They're about 3 meters diameter approximately. They are clear. Nothing was burnt there, as if what had descended there had some basis or legs, as to put it in some way, as if whatever descended there had some circular platforms to land. And that was not burnt either. It is amazing.
And actually these stones, when you break them, you split them in half, the interior of the stones have a completely different color of the outside part because they are burnt. And on the inside they are brown, on the outside they are completely black. And it's curious how even some Muslim people put Allah there with some stones to note that they also believe that God came down there in something that is technology. It's not just spiritual, it's material. So we have seen that there have been contact with extraterrestrials, known basically as aliens today, but they are nothing more than angels, or fallen angels, better said. But also God has had his own contact with technology to human beings throughout the story of the Bible. But what is the plan about this? Why do the governments want us to know about these kind of contacts? Because there is a specific moment coming in the following years that is being prepared for mankind. A contact with extraterrestrials, spaceships being seen, UFOs. This is going to grow, this is going to increase, it's going to escalate so that everyone in the world is going to know about WAPs, UFOs and alien contact, because there's going to be certain moments where they are going to truly reveal themselves, but not as demons precisely, and to take humanity to a certain point, because there is a certain plan for mankind for the end times, before the second coming of Christ. Now, to finish, we'll finish with a small video of the testimony of Roger Morneau, a man that had a contact and belonged to a satanic lodge where the high priest explained to him and his friend that's entered into this lodge many things about the demons, about the spirits, how they affect in our world and how they had communication with certain people. But we were only going to show the part where he mentions how the demon spirits are basically those extraterrestrials that apparently come from other galaxies.
The priest said that as the times on this planet gets more and more difficult, and calamities of all kinds are striking the planet more and more frequently, demon spirits are going to impress people with the importance of Sunday sacredness.
Roger, when I was a teenager back in the 1970s, I remember a song that came out talking about the age of Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, we've seen the development of the New Age, and I wondered if back when you were involved in spirit worship, if they talked about New Age at all.
Oh yes, it was a big thing that was coming up. One of the major deceptions of the last days.
Hmm.
And the priest told us, we talked quite a while, and then he said, could I have a little bit more of your time? I want to do something very fascinating. He says, the grand plan, the master's grand plan for harvesting the nations, for harvesting the multitudes of the earth into his cause, just before the close of the great controversy between the forces of good and evil. So we continued, after we expressed ourselves that we're deeply interested to know more about the activities of spirits. And he said it's going to be done in a unique manner. This grand plan is going to take people are going to eat the stuff. Because he says spirits, demon spirits, will declare themselves to be inhabitants of far distant planets in the galaxies that are coming to warn the inhabitants of planet Earth of the impending destruction of the planet unless something seriously proper is done to avoid it. And he went on saying that they will claim to have out-of-body experiences. Are you familiar with out-of-body experiences?
I've read about them.
In other words, so there's some persons are supposed to be able to, they believe in their immortal soul.
Astral soul projection.
Yes, right. Goes into different parts of the world and sees things and come back, and then they write all about it.
I've heard of that.
So, due to the fact that the millions of the earth, people, believe in people having an immortal soul, he says it'll be readily accepted when the spirits will, through a trance medium, converse with influential people of the land, you see.
Now, what is a trance medium?
It's a channeler today.
What is known today as a channeler?
Channeler, yeah. Okay. Shirley MacLaine's experience of getting involved with spiritism and with the supposed inhabitants of far distant planets in the galaxies. I taped the whole thing in 3 hours.
And you were hearing the fulfillment of what this high priest had said 45 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So he went on explaining about the fact that the spirits will show themselves willing to give valuable guidance that will not only help people avoid the destruction of the planet, but it will cause them to enter into a higher state of existence. For instance, he said the spirits will promise, and this is a big word, promise, that if their recommendations are followed carefully, they will usher in a glorious new age of peace and prosperity, and there'll be there'll be no more wars. You see, there'll be no more famines. There'll be no more people getting unhappy with one another. Neighbors will love neighbor, and social unrest will not take place no more. There'll be perfect happiness for 1,000 years. That's what the Spirit is going to promise.
Almost like the Garden of Eden created all over again.
And now we find that a lot of preachers are preaching the great age of glorious new age of victory over wars, victory over social unrest, victory over famines, and victory over all kinds of...
and he used the words new age to describe what was coming.
It would be a glorious new age, yeah. And this is exactly what the movement is all about today. And he went on and said, as I said a little earlier, that as life on this planet becomes more and more difficult, and calamities will strike the planet more and more frequently, the spirits at that time are going to put all their effort to impress religious leaders, to bring before the masses of the earth the sacredness of Sunday. See? They will teach Sunday sacredness. And with the religious leaders, looking forward to 1,000 years of perfect peace on earth, they will put all their effort into it. Then laws will be passed by governments. One person asked, what's going to happen about people that don't believe in the Spirit's recommendation? The priest said, that's no problem at all. Laws will be passed by governments that will force people to go along with it, regardless of whether they believe in it or not. And he says the law enforcement officers will explain to people, make it clear that such a law is necessary to assure the well-being of all people. He says the laws will be passed, no effort at all. And then he went on and he said about the fact that the vulnerability of the sun, which in ages past was such an irritant to the Creator. All of these great nations and other nations, of smaller ones, were all involved in sun worship. And in those centuries, the Creator found that teaching of worship of the sun to be a terrible irritant. And he said, it is going again to take place, but not in worshiping the sun, in remembering Sunday to keep it holy. He made a statement I would never forget. He says, by the observance of the day upon which the master, Satan, has placed the unction of his authority and power, he receives homage, regardless of whom people claim to worship. Isn't that something? So, can you understand now why I had 28 Bible studies in 1 week and started to go to church on Sabbath? And I never missed since until I became sick.
The issue of a day of worship came up in that meeting. Was Sunday the only day mentioned?
Well, you see, the priest mentioned, yes, about the fact Satan has chosen Sunday as his day. The Creator has chosen the 7th day of the week. Lucifer has chosen to call his day the first day of the week, Sunday. You see? And regardless of what people claim to worship, worshiping God, the Creator, by observing that day, that particular day, They are bringing homage and respect.
Well, I don't know what you think, but this has been quite impressive after everything that we have seen throughout the whole conference. Remember at the beginning when these Australian Aborigines said that the spirits could control climate. They could provoke lightning and winds and rains and floods. They had power to do these things. And yes, there is human technology to be able to create disasters, natural disasters, but demons can create them also, and they are going to use them for a certain purpose. Because the 2030 agenda, along with the climate and environment protection, is going to increase, and the laws and the law enforcement that is going to be used to protect, apparently, the planet is going to be used for a certain purpose, and it is going to take people to the Sunday law, because there is going to be one day of the week, Sunday, that is going to be enforced as a day of rest to be able to save the planet, because we are destroying it, because the industrialization of the world and globalism is basically destroying the resources, and we are going to be extinct, and etc, etc. We've seen this and heard this about in movies and so on. So many times they've been telling us this. Since we were even a child, this has happened to me. And I'm sure that many more have also experienced this. So one day as a rest for mankind, and one day as a rest for the Mother Earth. And this is going to be told by these beings that they themselves are going to come and reveal themselves to us, saying that the Sunday is the true day of God, when it is not like this. Ellen White says, "It is on the law of God that the last great struggle of the controversy between Christ and his angels and Satan and his angels will come, and it will be decisive for all the world. Men in responsible positions will not only ignore and despise the Sabbath themselves, but from the sacred desk will urge upon the people the observance of the first day of the week, pleading tradition and custom in behalf of this man-made institution. They will point to calamities on land and sea, to the storms of wind, the floods, the earthquakes, the destruction by fire, as judgments indicating God's displeasure, because Sunday is not sacredly observed. So climate change, the environment protection is the motive for this Sunday law. It is what is going to be used, the 2030 agenda, the Laudato Si encyclical. This is what is going to be used. The Sunday law, when it will be enforced, it will be something that will be a civil law, not religious. Not religious. And this is something we must understand, especially Adventists. Though these calamities will increase more and more, one disaster will follow close upon the heels of another. And those who make void the law of God will point to the few who are keeping the Sabbath of the fourth commandment as the ones who are bringing wrath upon the world. This falsehood is Satan's device, that he may ensnare the unwary." This is the device that is going to be used. The ones that will be the true keepers of the true day of rest, the Sabbath, are going to have the guilt upon them. They will charge all the disasters of the world, the earthquakes, the famine, the hunger, the wars, everything will be because of those people that are not going to obey the Sunday law. "For our wrestling is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and power, against the rulers of the world of his darkness, against the spirits of wickedness in the high places. Therefore take unto you the armour of God, that you may be able to resist in the evil day, and to stand in all things perfect." Spirits of wickedness in the high places. Demons themselves that are carrying out this divine plan for humanity, for the final appearance of Satan, as if he were Jesus Christ to come in very few years. This is to come around the corner. We are going to see UFO phenomenon, WAPs and everything much more. Are we going to warn others? Are we going to tell them the truth, what they truly are and what is to come, and what they are preparing for mankind? I hope we will. We will continue uploading more conferences, giving more information to be able to unveil this great deception that there is for mankind. Thank you to all of you that are collaborating, that are making this possible so that we can continue working, investigating and presenting this information to warn the world that the plagues are to come, that this is no joke, and that demons are real and are among us. But the end is to come, and finally sin is to finish and perish. God bless you.